Review Committee.
Excuse me, I'm sorry. This is the minute taker.
Yep.
Oh, there's the video. I just couldn't see.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Yep. I guess we'll start with roll call. And in a change from making Megan do this, I'm just going to ask everyone to say who they are around the table. Jesse Rounds, Community Development Director.
Evan Clements, Planner and Zoning Deputy.
Wilma Desta, Civil Engineer, Public Works.
Rick Wood, Fire Marshal and Building Official.
Do you guys want to, since you're here?
Sure. Mary Brenner, Senior Planner, Staff.
Megan Fortson, Planner and Staff.
Thanks so much. All right, before we go any further, we still do not have a vice chair halfway through the year. I guess we had one. He's no longer part of the city. So do I hear any nominations for vice chair? Just gonna look back and forth. Yes.
I'm going to nominate Evan Clements as Vice Chair.
Nice. All right. Anyone else? Any other nominations? Nicely done.
I'm not on this board, so.
You know, it's like Speaker of the House. We can make anybody vice chair. Okay, so we have one nomination. I guess with that, I guess we have to get a second for the nomination, correct? Anybody want to second Evan? The nomination of Evan.
And Mr. Chair, you can do the motion. You can second or make the
Nice.
motion as well, if
All
you'd
right.
like.
I second the nomination of Evan because I want him to suffer greatly. And then can I immediately jump to a motion, or because I seconded it, I can't? Okay, all right. With that, I move that we elect Evan as vice chair. All those in favor? All right, it's unanimous. Thank you, Evan, for being voluntold to be vice chair. And I guess next up on the agenda is minutes from previous meetings. These are both the July 3rd meetings, which I did not attend, but I get to vote on them anyway. For the pre-submission meeting, can I get a motion to approve the minutes for the Wednesday, July 3rd, 2024 meeting minutes?
That's both the pre-submission.
Just pre-submission right now.
Just pre-submission?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'll do them separately.
I move to adopt the pre-submission minutes from the July 3rd meeting.
Can I get a second? All right, thank you, Rick. Any discussion on those, any corrections? All right, all those in favor of the pre-submission meeting hearing minutes?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, that's unanimous. And then for the committee meeting, also July 3rd, that followed the pre-submission meeting, can I get a motion to approve the meeting minutes?
I move to approve the July 3rd Minor Project Review Committee meeting minutes.
Thank you. Can I get a second?
Second.
Thanks, Rick. All those in favor, I guess, any corrections?
Nope.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right, that's unanimous. Excellent. Thank you very much. Staff, do we have any final vote, or any conditional approvals that need final vote?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, there is one application that is ready for final approval today. It's SPR 644 modification number 2. This was for the expansion of the parking lot at 426 to 428 Winchester Street, as well as the installation of some lighting and some landscaping related to the parking lot. There were 6 conditions of approval that needed to be met prior to final approval by the Minor Project Review Committee. They included the submittal of an updated narrative, note sheet, and proposed conditions plans to indicate the correct number of proposed parking spaces, having the owner's signature appear on the title page and proposed conditions plan, the submittal of 5 paper copies and a digital copy of the final plan set, the submittal of a security to cover the cost of landscaping and sediment and erosion control, the submittal of an updated drainage report clarifying the intent of the 4-inch orifice connection to the city drainage system, and the submittal by the property owner of a letter acknowledging that the city will not be responsible for the maintenance of any portion of the on-site drainage. All of those precedent conditions of approval have been met, and staff recommend that you issue final approval for the application.
Excellent. Thank you, Megan.
644 modification number 2.
Again, thank you for that. Evan, do you have any questions? Yeah. Winchester, yeah.
No questions, Mr. Chair.
Can you turn on your microphone, please?
No questions, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Any other questions from, okay, all those in favor, oh, I guess we have to move. Can I get a motion to approve the final?
Mr. Chair, I move to grant final approval on SPR 644 Mod 2 for the project located at 426, 428 Winchester Street.
Thanks. Can I get a second?
Second?
Excellent, thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, can we get a vote? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
It's unanimous. Thanks so much. Megan, any other final approvals?
Nope, no other applications are ready for today.
Awesome. Thank you so much. All right, now the main show. I believe this is Mary. We have been discussing some updates to policies and procedures for minor project, and Mary and Megan have been working pretty hard on getting some ideas together, so take it away.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mary Brenner, Senior Planner. I wanted to talk to you today about some changes that we're making both to sort of like the setting for these meetings, but also to the process that you follow as a board. And these are trying to get closer to our goal of having this be a more expedited review for applicants, while also being sensitive to the amount of staff time or staff work that has to take place ahead of time when an application is submitted. So the first change, which I hope you already saw, is that we're moving these meetings starting in August to be in the conference room, which is next door, which means that these meetings will not be televised or broadcast any longer. However, that is a more informal setting. Everyone's around a conference table. We're hoping that will help make the meeting feel a little bit more friendly to applicants and also give them the sense that we're all kind of working together. So it's really a setting change in order to sort of change the tone of these meetings. Again, going back to our goal of being as customer friendly as possible. And then the second thing that will be this isn't really a change, but it's to your process, I guess, but it's more of an ask for you. When an application is submitted for the Minor Project Review Committee, we do not have enough time as planning staff to do a full review of that application before it gets to you. So right now, Megan is the staff liaison for this board, and so when an application is submitted, most of her time is spent in taking that application, creating the physical application folder, getting everything set up in our software system, making sure everything's stamped and coded correctly, making sure all the submittal items have been submitted. But she's not actually, she doesn't have time to go through and evaluate the application to see if it meets our standards, see if it meets zoning, see if it meets all of the different criteria. So the intent is for you all, when you get the agenda packet, to be doing that review yourselves ahead of the meeting. We understand, a week isn't enough time to have a bunch of back and forth with an applicant or anything like that, so that's not what we're asking you to do. What we're asking you to do is to review the application materials ahead of time, come to the meeting with any questions that you may have prepared. That way, when the applicant is here, you can have a productive meeting with them and ask them questions. If you get them answered, great. If there's more information that you need, that is what the second meeting a month is for. So the intent when these meetings were set up was that unlike the planning board meetings, which we try to get through in one meeting, this one, because we don't have as much staff review ahead of time and as much back and forth ahead of time, or a staff report prepared for you, the idea was that the applicant would come to the first meeting. If it's super simple, no major questions raised, everything is really cut and dry, they can get their approval in one meeting. But probably for most of them, you're going to need a second meeting just for them to answer some of the questions or provide more materials if they need to. So I want to encourage you, instead of, rather than creating a long list of conditions that may be difficult for staff and the applicant to understand and track, I think we're trying to encourage you to use that second meeting more if you need it. And on our end as staff, we're going to try and be more upfront with applicants and make it more clear to them that, yes, this is a different path than going to the planning board. It's a little bit faster, but there's also risks associated with this path. There's some limitations to it. So that they fully understand, we're not going to vet your application before it gets to the public hearing. And you may have to go to the second meeting. And so that will be made clear to the applicants ahead of time so that they understand, and they could decide ahead of time, well, we'd rather go to the planning board then. They'll have that choice. So I want to pause there and see if there's any questions on what I'm proposing, or if you have any concerns about this approach. Go ahead, Jesse.
So, Jesse Rounds, Community Development Director. This is a practice question more than anything else. You and I, we've all talked about this upstairs a little bit. Because it's a public hearing, it will still need to be continued to the next meeting. So at the
Yes.
end of that process, we'll move to continue and then, okay, just wanted to check.
Yes, yeah, and if you do not make a decision at the first meeting, you would have to continue the public hearing and state the date, time, and location of where the meeting will be continued to. You do have a 60-day timeframe to make a decision, and so we definitely, hopefully you never get anywhere close to that. But there may be some applications where you require more information and it takes the applicant time to get that information. And so in that instance, which we hope is not often, you would need to get some sort of written agreement from the applicant to extend beyond that time frame, or you as a board would need to deny the application. But in general, we're hoping that the reason why projects are coming to you is because they don't meet the threshold for major projects. They don't have any waiver requests associated with them, et cetera. So the hope is that it's a relatively simple application that won't need that amount of time.
So if we have an applicant come and we have enough information to act on the application the first meeting, that can be accomplished. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes.
Because if that isn't the case, then it begs the question, where's the expedited difference between going to planning board or coming here? And so that would be my only comment, I guess, is as long as we have the ability to act on it at the first meeting, if there's not, too much information that isn't answered, then I think it might be a good process.
Yes, that's a great point. So definitely if, I think I did mention this, but if somebody comes before you and their application is pretty cut and dry, definitely you can approve it in one meeting. You always have that ability. But what we've noticed now that we've had this board running for a couple of 3 years, is that we've had some instances where I think this board was really like, yes, let's get the approval through in one meeting. And then because of that, it actually backfired and extended the process and was more money, more time, and more heartache for the applicant than if the board had just continued 2 weeks and worked out the issues. A good example is if you have a question about whether or not the application meets zoning, that's a red flag, because this board approved a plan that didn't meet zoning, and what that did is it invalidated the whole plan, and the applicant had to start from square one. And so I would rather that you continue for 2 weeks than risk the whole application in an effort to rush things. And so we've had a number of mistakes and just situations that weren't ideal because things moved maybe quicker than they should have in that instance. So that's the reason why we're just emphasizing this. So yeah, I would say if you notice a zoning question, that would be a red flag. If you think that they're not able to meet one of the standards, that's a red flag. So just a couple of things for you to look out for. Because anytime a standard isn't met, they can always ask for a waiver, but that requires going to the planning board. Okay.
So, if we're reviewing an application and it's determined that they need a waiver in the middle of this body's review of the application, what's the process? Do we deny, or can we like forward an application so it doesn't get denied, but we basically say that this body no longer has jurisdiction over this request, and then they have to get on the planning board? And would that require a new public hearing notice?
So I'll answer your second question first. Yes, it would require a new public hearing notice before the planning board, and that's another risk that we'll have to be clear about with the applicant. But to answer your first question, I'll have to get back to you on whether or not you have to deny the application. My thought would be, if the applicant says they want to withdraw it, that would probably be the cleanest path. But I will get back to you on the exact, protocol there. But definitely you can't, even if you were to take action on something, if you didn't have jurisdiction over it, that action would be void. So if you notice anything that you think, okay, this needs to go to ZBA or the planning board before it comes, we can't act on it, at any point in the process, you should raise that.
No, I don't have any objection if it simplifies the process.
Do you have anything else, Mary, or that's a lot, so I don't want to. And just a matter of practice, one of the things that we talked about initially that I do want to raise here, in case I'm not here and the vice chair is serving, or anybody else, we are gonna, and maybe I can put something together that'll have just sort of our standard requirements. So the standard conditions of approval that we always ask for, 5 copies, all that kind of stuff, would just be there, and we would just append it to everything at the beginning. Go ahead, Megan, sorry.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I'm working on preparing something like that, so you'll have it to use.
I don't even have to do it. Thank you, Megan.
Yes, and thank you, Mr. Chair. May I add one more quick thing? Yes, so I did forget to mention that. So another thing that we talked about as staff is that when you're making a decision on an application, because you are doing the review in the meeting, the staff liaison is no longer going to provide you with recommended motion language. And the reason for that is because when we do this for planning board, there's been a pretty thorough review that's been done. It's been sent out for departmental review. We've already identified the issues, and so the reason why we provide the planning board with sample language is so that they have a place to start from, because they're getting it through in one meeting. With you all, because staff isn't doing that review, we don't want to give you any recommended language for a motion. We can give you the standard, like, beginning part, the title of the application and the title of the name of the applicant and all of that. But you will have to place your own conditions of approval, because, again, we're not doing the review, and we don't want you to just read what's on the paper thinking that it has everything captured in it that needs to be.
Great, thank you.
And if you ever do have questions, though, about a condition and how to word it, feel free to lean on staff. You could say, hey, it sounds like we need to have some sort of condition related to, drainage when a building permit is submitted. How should we word that condition? People can, and hopefully having it in the conference room around a conference table will help encourage more of that type of discussion to occur.
Perhaps a list of potential conditions that you could essentially sit here and check off as you're doing the review and it comes through, might be helpful, like the standard conditions that you mentioned, those additional things that come up from time to time that we can foresee, so that we're not trying to wordsmith on the fly, so to speak. We can have those and just kind of invoke those, if you will.
Yes, great point. So I think Megan is working on that. And so there's sort of like some standard ones that Jesse mentioned that would probably be required for every application. And I think we could probably include some common ones on there that aren't necessarily needed for every application as well. But I think the main thing that we want to emphasize is to do a review in the meeting and make sure that any issues that you're identifying that need to be captured in a condition, that you're placing the condition. Like, just because it's not on the list that we give you doesn't mean that it can't be placed as a condition. That's really the point that we want to, we want you all to be comfortable to place conditions that you think are needed.
Thank you so much. Any other questions? Thank you, Mary, and thank you, Megan, for working through this. Go ahead, Rick.
Mr. Chair, just a question about timing. It sounds like, from what I've heard from the rest of the committee members, it sounds like this seems like it makes sense. So as far as enacting it, I guess, do we have a sense on when that may occur? Is there going to be some time building a couple of the elements, obviously, or is this planning to just jump right in the next meeting?
We're going to try and jump right in for the first August meeting. I think it's going to be a little bit of, getting our feet wet, figuring this out as we go. So I think there's going to be a lot of staring at Megan, possibly. Go ahead, Megan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So we actually didn't receive any applications for our August meeting, so it will be the next time we receive an application for the board to review. Yeah.
Perfect. All right.
And I'll just add,
Yeah.
just kind of unfortunately, the nature of the beast is that this path isn't used very often, so there is going to be some kind of like brushing the rust off and kind of figuring it out as we go, because we don't do it very often, unfortunately. Hopefully that will change.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think, we're going to have to figure out as we go. Plus, we're going to get rusty if it's 3 months between applications, that sort of thing. So, I mean, the reason we're really pursuing this path is the beauty of having this group is that we're all professionals who work for the city who are used to seeing these applications and hopefully have a lot of the concerns in our head already. So one of the things that I've appreciated with this board is even when we've had the support of staff where they've written out things, there still have been issues that have come up in the meeting that we've had to deal with that people have. So there's evidence that it will work. So I appreciate this opportunity, and I appreciate you all being okay with checking it out, seeing if it works. Yes, go ahead.
Sorry, Mr. Chair. Staring at my bright pink copy of the LDC reminded me, one more staff update. This is mostly for Yelma because I think everyone else should know, but the Land Development Code was recently updated with a new article that changed all of the article references past Article 17. So there's, I don't know if you have a printed copy of the LDC, but if you use one, you probably want to reprint it.
I think even send me the link. So,
Yes, yeah, the link online is good, but
Yeah.
I'm just, in case you use a physical copy ever,
Yeah.
you'll want to reprint it because
I'll-
all the references
Yeah,
are.
definitely, I will do that.
Okay.
Good memory. That's good. Okay. With that, I'll just move on to, I guess that sort of technically counted as new business too, but does the committee have any new business that they want to bring up? Any questions? All right, seeing none. Just upcoming meeting dates. For August, pre-submission meeting is August 1st at 9 a.m. There will be no first meeting. And there may be a second meeting if we get final approvals or anything like that, correct?
I would say for now, we'll hold off on canceling the first meeting, just in case we
Okay.
do have anything that's ready for final approval.
Perfect.
And then the second meeting as needed as well.
Okay, so first meeting would follow pre-submission, so August 1st at 10 a.m. And then the second meeting is August 15th at 10 a.m. as needed.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
My understanding is that you and I will both not be here on August
Yes.
1st.
Oh, boy. So there's a chance we won't have quorum anyway.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
Chairman, and I'll be on vacation.
So, second meeting is looking more and more likely.
Yes,
go ahead and
okay.
cancel that first meeting then.
Cancel August 1st, we will do that.
Although do remember that it's, the appointee for the board can change from meeting to
Yes,
meeting.
so we could bring another person in, although this decimates, I mean, unless Mary and Megan, you two want to serve as
And
appointees.
Don or Brett or someone from engineering. Yeah, but I just want to put it
Yeah.
out there because if we do have applicants that want final approval and they're in a rush or whatever, we could
Right.
probably work something out.
Perfect, okay. But that also is true for pre-submission, and I think we may want to hold pre-submission regardless, just because a lot of these are time-sensitive and people want to have a chance. So I think figuring out that stand-in will be very helpful. So I'll reach out to everyone on the board and figure that out. Okay? Yep.
Did we change pre-submission time?
Nope.
To elongate it by 30 minutes? Last one I thought was a 9:30 start, and that's why.
Yes,
Thank you,
Megan.
Mr. Chair. Yes, last month's meeting was a little bit messed up because of the holiday, because we met on Wednesday instead of Thursday, so there was another committee meeting that was until 9:30, but normally 9 o'clock is our start time.
Thank you.
Good catch, and thank you, Megan. Okay, with that, I really appreciate everyone's time, and I'm going to close this meeting of the City of Keens Minor Project Review Committee at 10:27.